welcome to another episode of Raman Reasons. At the end of day three, England have gained an upper hand because they got a huge lead and they still have enough wickets on hand to try and extend the lead on the fourth morning. India batted first. They did well in the first session, did not lose any wickets because the openers were defiant and they were really good when it came to combating the England attack and also the conditions that were conducive for the fast bowlers. However, there were good contributions, but nothing substantial because there were three half centuries, but none of them were converted into a three-figure knock. But it has to be said that Rishabh Pant was really struggling, and full marks to him for being courageous because he walked out to bat even though he was diagnosed of a fracture on his toe and was advised not to take the field. But realizing that India needed to pile up a big score in the first innings, he walked out to bat and made a half century. The other two half century makers, Sai Sudarshan and Jaiswal, again not capitalizing on doing all the hard work and getting set. However, it has to be said that Sai Sudarshan looked good, and of course, like any other youngster on the way up and at the start of his career, he needs to work on a few aspects of his batting, and quite obviously, as it is, I'm sure that he would have been contemplating about where he needs to work and what he needs to do better because he's one who's always looking to improve his game. Jaiswal looked good. He looked more determined because there were a lot of questions raised about his place in the 11, which is, I think, a bit harsh. However, I was glad to see him get some runs and also provide a good start for India. And the thing is that on this particular surface at this venue, a lot was expected of the Indian attack, but however, that was not to be because the Indian attack did not start off well for the simple reason that they were conceding far too many boundary balls. Now, this is where I'll have to pause and take you back to the Indian innings because during the Indian innings, the England bowlers were absolutely disciplined, and especially Ben Stokes. Once they waited long enough to pick up the first wicket, they ensured that they piled the pressure on, they kept things very tight, and chipped away at the Indian wickets. And that's the reason why they did not allow India to get to the 400 mark. Ben Stokes has been extremely impressive. It's rather ironical, isn't it? Because before the start of the season, the talk was all about what Chris Oakes can do and the injuries to Mark Wood and there are a lot of talk about even Cars maybe being the danger man for England. But what has happened during the series is that Ben Stokes has been magnificent in terms of how he's bowled each and every spell. He's taken upon the responsibility of bowling long spells. He's bowled spells of 9 overs, 10 overs, and for a man coming back to cricket after being out of it due to an injury, it's remarkable. Not only has he been really in good rhythm, but he's also been absolutely magnificent in terms of control. And his 5-4 could not have come at a better time because the England side needed somebody to show them the way, and the captain did exactly that. His line and length were exemplary, and he used the bouncer to good effect. And that's one huge difference between the England bowlers and the Indian bowlers. Ben Stokes was magnificent, and his 5-4 was a template as far as fast bowling is concerned in Test cricket, in terms of the discipline, in terms of the control, and also in terms of using the bouncer to good effect. Now, getting back to the England innings, India started off rather poorly, conceding too many boundary balls. And once again, in hindsight, after seeing all the bowlers perform, it was felt that the team management did not make the right calls in picking the 11. But you can't help it because at the start of the match, the team management takes decisions based on what they think would be the ideal combination. And the debutant looked a bit nervous in his first spell. Kamboj came back better in his second spell, and he's also picked up a wicket. But what was surprising was the manner in which Shubman Gill utilized the resources available at his disposal. He did not give the new ball to Siraj, and he also did not start the proceedings after tea with Siraj. So Siraj was made to wait when England started off in a cavalier fashion. In fact, Duckett was very aggressive. That's because he was provided with a lot of boundary deliveries, especially onto his pads, and he made full use of them. Zach Crowley found some form, and it was perhaps a bit of a disappointment for him that he could not complete his century because he's been finding it difficult to score runs in the recent past. And a century would have obviously turned a lot of things around for him, at least in terms of confidence and also in terms of him feeling that he's capable of getting big runs once again. Be that as it may, England were served well by just about every top order batter except the flamboyant Harry Brook, who was obviously all at sea against Washington Sundar. And talking of Washington Sundar, it was rather surprising that he was held back till the 69th over when you consider that he's bowled extraordinarily well in the earlier match and he would have been brimming with confidence. Also, the fact that Jadeja picked up a wicket and the captain needed to change the tempo of the game because fast bowlers were really looking pretty ordinary. I'm sorry to use the word ordinary because that's how they were. Even Bumrah was looking like he was bowling well within himself, and there was a huge drop in the average speed that he bowled in this test match compared to what he did in the first test of the series. Now, it is debatable whether he needed to play this test match or whether he was fully fit or what was the reason for him bowling well within himself. But I would not resort to making any kind of hasty statements here because the fact of the matter is that Bumrah is mature enough and he's seasoned enough to know his own fitness levels and also the kind of workload that he can be subjected to. Now, the situation is rather clear for India. They got to first bowl England out on day four and bat as long as they can. When I say as long as they can, they got to try and bat out possibly about 5 sessions because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a problem for them as a defeat here would mean that India will go to the last test at the Oval uh, 3-1 down, which means that they'll need to really pick themselves up in terms of intensity and focus. But however, all is not lost because the Indian side has shown that they can battle it out. But the only problem is that uh, Shubman Gill has not been getting runs after the fantastic start he's had to the series. And also, there is no certainty that Rishabh Pant will walk out to bat because it's one thing to be brave and it's another thing to aggravate an injury. And Rishabh Pant is a kind of cricketer who needs to be looked after well because as it is, he's suffered a huge setback, but he's done well to come out of that injuries he sustained during that accident. And an on-field injury is unfortunate, but there's nothing much that can be done. And that is another setback, the injury to Rishabh Pant as far as Team India is concerned. It does look like he might bat in the second innings as well because he did come back braving the injury, but again, he may not be at his best because it's not easy for somebody who cannot move freely around the crease to be at his best. Rishabh Pant was trying to be enterprising as he normally is, but it'll be a huge challenge for Team India if they're going to be having the services of Rishabh Pant when he's only about 30-40% fit. However, the others have to really put their hands up and grind it out. And the other thing is that they cannot be excessively cautious or excessively defensive because that has really cost them at Lords. And it's important for India once again not to miss out on key sessions because if they don't grab the key moments or if they don't do well enough in the key sessions of this test match in the last 2 days, then they're really going to run into trouble. As far as England is concerned, They are in the driver's seat, largely due to the fantastic effort from all the batters almost. But the hero has been Joe Root once again. What a fabulous knock it has been. To be honest, he did not really start off fluently enough. He was looking a bit restless, and he also made people wonder if he was really looking to play a long innings or if he's out there to have a good time. But once he settled down and once he calmed down and started doing the things that he's done all these years, he was the master. There was no two ways about it. And he unleashed the kind of shots that we've seen him play over the years. And during the course of that 150 of his, he went past several records, and now he's just behind Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, but the difference is huge. However, I'm sure that he still has a lot more years of cricket left in him, and it'll be interesting to see if he can go past Sachin Tendulkar, but that's a long way away, both in terms of time and also in terms of runs. But what he's done here on a slightly sluggish wicket is that he's put England in the driver's seat, and he's also shown what it is like to adapt, or what it is to adapt on different tracks, and what it is to battle hard in Test cricket as a batter. Every time he walks out to bat, there's a lot of learnings for youngsters watching this game, and this knock also was one which provided a lot of fantastic visuals, which is pleasing to the eye, and also it provided a lot of learnings. However, there's a lot of cricket left in this test yet, and India are already looking down the barrel. They got to fight really hard, and maybe the best result, as things stand now, will be a draw because England has a huge lead, and they will obviously look to try and hammer a few runs quickly enough at the start of play on day four and put the pressure on India. So it's all up to India now to try and fight it out and show what kind of resilience they have individually and collectively. They've done well enough in this series so far when it comes to battling it out, and whatever they've done so far is obviously not enough, and they'll be really tested in this test match as far as character is concerned. Let's hope that Gill and his boys fight it out and secure a draw here and go to London with a chance of at least leveling the series. But it's got to be really earned through some real hard work over the last 2 days of this test match. That's it for now from me, and until I catch up with you next time, be good and stay safe.